Oren's discussion just made me think about it. I know Amy talked very briefly, and because it's a CMAP project, I won't try to talk about it too much, but I am particularly excited about the effort that CMAP is working with the Woodlawn, Inglewood, and Washington Park neighborhoods on a Green and Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative plan in partnership with the City of Chicago, because I think that plan, which is going to be comprehensive in nature and looking not only at commercial and housing, but making sure that ideas of urban agriculture are integrated with that. So it's not a divorced, separate initiative, but thinking about how these issues and these land uses are integrated in a way that supports communities that are dealing with disinvestment and the need for new investment in economic development. So I'm really excited about that and watching it very closely. Again, I wanted to thank Ray Forgiano for stepping in because of our loss of Jody. So again, Ray, how long were you with Kenosha, the city itself?
I still am. I haven't moved
As a city planner.
City planner 34 years.
Thank you. 34 years of planning experience. So, and now in his retirement, he's running the Kenosha Harbor Market. So I wanted to introduce Ray and thank you for stepping in again.
Thank you. This is quite a microphone. It picks up everything. Yes, I was a planner, well, I still am, for 34 years. I did just about any type of planning there could be. One of the values or benefits of living in a satellite city that's just large enough to have problems and not so large that you can't attack them all. And we're somewhat of a split personality because we sit midway between Chicago and Milwaukee. We're part of the Chicago metropolitan area because of the commuting pattern and employment patterns, but we're in Wisconsin. So we have this split even allegiance in terms of the things we look at and things we do. Like if you're in the south side, you're a Bears fan. If you're on the north side, you're a Packer fan. And it doesn't matter where you live, you're going to be a Cubs fan. At any rate, from there, as I retired, I started to develop a farmer's market. In addition to that, I do consulting, and I'm also involved in another seed. This one's spelled with an S, Sustainable Edible Economic Development. It's an organization we started about 2 years ago to cover 3 counties, Kenosha, Racine, and Walworth, in order, it's sustainable edible economic development. The idea of producing jobs as a result of food. I guess I take a little different perspective. I see capitalism as extremely important. It's what drives this country. It's what has made it the most powerful country in the world. And if you can grab onto capitalism, you can make a lot of things work. So part of re-energizing even neighborhoods really has to do with getting capitalism to work for it. I also believe in trends and capturing trends and harnessing the trends and making them work for you, for your communities. And there are a couple of what I consider really large trends going on. One has to do with global food. We've been very successful in marketing capitalism to the rest of the world. Darn, they've caught on to capitalism and now they're catching up. But the result of that, in terms of we see far better economic development occurring right now in Asia, but part of it, as a result of that, the food production's not there. They're not able to supply their own food. So we're now in a period, we're moving more greatly into a period where there's a worldwide food shortage. You see this in commodity prices. Coffee would be one example, rice is another example. Fortunately, some of us considered them the enemy on a local basis, and that's agribusiness, will help satisfy that problem. Now, do I need agribusiness foods? Well, yes, I don't have any choice because that's often what's available in the grocery store. But at least I know that in the future they're going to be supplying and using a good purpose. But personally, I try not to eat that. I want to eat something that's locally produced because it's going to be healthier. So I see these countervailing trends. One is this global need, but then this need on a local basis. As we become better educated in this country, we're going to continue to move more towards a trend of eating local and eating higher quality. You see it in restaurants now. You go to a restaurant and you see where it came from. And it doesn't say it came from Peru, but it may tell you that it came from Delavan, or maybe it came from Southwest Michigan. The point is there's this trend now for higher quality niche products, and I think it's one of the things that has to be harnessed. Now, before I go further into this, I don't know who's here. How many of you are planners? Okay. How many are urban planners? You can raise your hand more than once. How many are rural planners? Ooh, that's cool. How many are land use planners? Transportation planners? Let's see. Rural planners, I think I asked that one already. Historic preservation planners? Interesting. How many are social planners? Well, don't be afraid. You know, there's nothing to be embarrassed about being a social planner. You know, no matter which planning area you're in, you're doing all of those. You can't do land use planning without doing transportation. You certainly can't do transportation or land use without integrating social. They all fit together. It's one big picture. The other big trend that's going on, in case you haven't noticed, is we're in a recession on the verge of a depression, and it's going to restart the economy. Richard Florida, I think, depicted it very well about 2 years ago. It's a big restart. It's a big reboot of the economy. The economy is going to operate different in the future, just as it did the last time there was a depression, and the time before that when there was a major crash in the 1890s. The economy is going to change. Part of the ability for us to come back is to be able to latch on those trends which are going to sustain, at least for a while. These trends never last forever, but at least sustain for a while. That's one of the reasons I think it's really important to have urban agriculture, is it's a trend. That's going to certainly sustain for quite a while. Now, what areas? I see several areas, and I think the idea of growing locally for your own need is paramount. But at the same time, growing for the area need is similar. It's there, the demand is there. But it's hard to sustain yourself as that's your only income. If you're going to be in urban agriculture, can you just grow for a farmer's market that's down the block? Will that be enough to be able to sustain your life? Probably not. You have to think on a bigger scale, which then leads to the whole issue of distribution and aggregation. There's technical issues that come out of this effort to grow on a bigger scale. So if you're going to be an urban agriculture, I'm not expecting you to become urban agriculturalists, although you can be, because it's something you can do in your part-time. You need to be able to move it from just supplying to a farmer's market to an adjunct of being able to supply to other people. Now, so you mentioned Walmart. Walmart will buy, but the problem with the Walmarts of the world, and the Sam's Clubs, and the Woodmans, or the Super Values, or the Gordon Foods, their demand level is at such a high level that on a small urban basis, you can't meet their demand. You're too small. So there needs to be the step in between, this aggregation on a much lower scale, where it's possible to aggregate and then produce on a local scale to local stores. You know, Whole Food will buy, even their demand is pretty high, but if you have enough aggregation, and those who are not familiar with the term aggregation means you're pulling together, you're aggregating different suppliers, bringing it to one place, and you're possibly processing it, you're possibly reducing it, cleaning it, packaging it, but most of you get it to one place so you can redistribute it. There's a lack of aggregation in the entire region. That's one of the problems. So even if you're able to produce the urban agriculture and able to get people to grow in their backyards or the vacant lot, or there's community gardens, you still have an issue if there's enough production. How do you get it to the table outside of just using the farmer's market? Aggregation is one of those. The aggregation means there's got to be buildings involved, there needs to be management involved, and then there needs to be the connection to the other wholesalers as well as the retailers. You have to pardon me, this is really off the top of my head today. I really didn't have this time this morning to produce the PowerPoint. I truly think where the bigger challenges are in terms of how do you produce farmers in agricultural? How do you go to someone in an urban area and say, you should be farming? It's not intuitive. It's not intuitive for most people in this country even to view themselves as entrepreneurs. they're more intuitive to think they should be an employee. And how do you get it even further across to say that in an urban area you should be growing? So there's a problem. I'm seeing this at my local level. I have buyers, I can't get enough suppliers. Because people don't understand that they need, especially in this recession, that they can create a job for themselves by becoming a farmer. The second problem, okay, I want to be a farmer. The second problem comes into, okay, what techniques do I use? You know, we saw a couple examples on here. There's a whole set of issues that are going to come forward over planning, land use management, zoning ordinances, subdivision ordinances, over what you're going to be allowed to do on subplots. Are you going to be able to do hoop houses, as an example? Are you going to allow to have bees? Are you going to have beekeepers in the city? I don't know, did Chicago pass that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's excellent, you know, and that's really important for the environment as well. How about chickens? You know, we're gonna allow livestock in the city, we're gonna allow pigs in the city. You know, the neo-traditional movement is based on that design element. That design element, actually, it's why we had picket fence once upon a time, so you keep the livestock in your yard. So those challenges are there, but there's other ones. I mentioned the lack of farmers. I see the other, in the lack of aggregation. The other one has to do with processing, and this is probably just as big. I see the need for public kitchens, because there's more than just growing lettuce and getting it on the table. You know, you could grow asparagus, we'll use, even though that season has just ended, at least in this region. You had excess asparagus, what do you do with it? Well, you should be able to can it. You should be able to pickle it. Where are you gonna do that? You can't do it out of your house. It's not healthy. You need to do it out of certified kitchens, and there really needs to be public certified kitchens. The cost of trying to build your own kitchen is too high for that. The hill is too tall to climb to take the risk. So that risk level needs to be brought down so that it's achievable. So that someone can go and experiment and say, I have a product, I can make it reasonable price, I can bring it to a farmer's market to see if it sells. Have to wrap up, are we going too long? Then I'll have to speed through. So, that then leads to processing plants. Because you really want to help your local economic development, you need to export products and import capital. So your processing plants will then allow to export. In my case, you know, I would like to be able to export to Chicago. But that doesn't mean that people in Chicago shouldn't be exporting just as they do in California to here, and just as Upper Wisconsin does to here, that we shouldn't be exporting to other parts of the country with specialty items. I'm gonna try to wrap real fast. I've run a farmer's market now for 9 years. Next year will be our 10th year. We started with 18 vendors. We're now up to about, well, this weekend we'll have 114. That's not all farmers. I'm a strong believer that if you really want to have effective farmers markets, use European models and set your target high, make incremental steps. Big targets, small steps, and make it interesting. It is one of the highest levels of social interaction I've ever experienced. People come to farmers markets not just to buy produce, they come to have a good time. But if you get them there, then they'll buy things, and that leads to more entrepreneurship. So, thanks for listening.